Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. It seems like God or whomever wants to take my vocal cords away. It seems like by the end of today I will lose my voice. Anyway, what is to negotiate in bad faith? Usually that means that you engage in some kind of negotiation without actually wanting to negotiate. Therefore, you will try all kinds of ways to destroy the negotiation without giving the impression that you don't want to negotiate. For instance, you will require or request the other side, the other party, to make some concessions that you know that he or she knows they are impossible to fulfill. So kind of like preconditions. For instance, before we talk or while we talk, I ask you, let's say, to eliminate one of your family members before we, look at the issue. I know you will not do that. Something like that, or ask for certain concessions that I know that you will never agree. Therefore, the thing is gonna stall. This is what some historians say. Poland was engaged with the Nazis, with Nazi Germany, before September 1st, 1939, when Poland was invaded by Germany. And it was about the Danzig corridor that the Germans wanted to achieve. Danzig being a port, and now at that time it was and still is Gdansk, Danzig, in Poland, given to Poland after the First World War armistice. And the Germans they had a big population over there of Germans, and they said, well, we want a corridor so we can, go back and forth and have access to them and kind of a semi-autonomy and so on. The Poles says, yes, let's negotiate. But on the other hand, they had Brits who said, no, do whatever you want. If you don't want to negotiate and the Germans will attack you, we will retaliate, we will, fulfill our obligations under our treaties of defending you and so on. So that's why they say that the Poles negotiated in bad faith. Now we have Ukraine that imposes all kinds of requirements before it sits down to negotiate with Russia. And those requirements are impossible, then they know that, are impossible to be fulfilled by the other side, on this case, Russia. Both sides, the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Americans always, they try to appear as being the good guys in all this, for the idiots who do not understand much of the situation, for their opinion, forming their opinion, influencing their opinion. So depending on what kind of media you listen to, you will be able to be propagandized in that direction or that direction, unless you gather as much information from all sides and you verify it and use common sense, logic, and whatever, how should I put it, prior knowledge, the whole Ukraine incident you have. Now, what happened now? Ukraine said, Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine, claims that he would like, in the name of Ukraine, or Ukraine would like, to organize a Ukraine would like to organize this peace summit at the United Nations, and they say that they will invite Russia to the summit, which would be obviously to try to sit down with Russia, if Russia fulfills certain requirements. And those requirements, we know, are impossible to be fulfilled. Therefore, Russia will not participate because Russia doesn't want to participate. Not because not because Ukraine imposes certain kind of requirements, preconditions that they know Russia will not be able to fulfill. So let's see what's going on here. This article comes from Politico from December 26, 2022. Ukraine's foreign minister aims for February peace summit. February. Ukraine's foreign minister on Monday said his government is aiming to have a peace summit by end of February, preferably at the United Nations, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres as possible mediator around the anniversary of Russia's war. But Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba told the Associated Press that Russia could only be invited to such a summit if the country faced a war crimes tribunal first. Oh my. So we're going to talk to you about peace or anything, just to participate, but first turn yourself in to our courts. And then after we determine that you are a criminal, then we will talk to you at the United Nations. We'll sit down with you. These guys are comedians, clowns. Imagine, do you think, let's say it's going to be this tribunal will be headed by the West, will not be just. That's my gut feeling based on prior tribunals. Russia and all its leaders will be found guilty of this and this crime and so on. So they will be indicted and they will be obviously convicted. Under that new stamp that the leaders of Russia will have, which is convicted criminals, they will not be able to participate in the negotiation in the United Nations, right? In the end of February. That means what? That means that there must be someone else who would be allowed and accepted to come and negotiate in the name of Russia. Who that might be. So that means Russia could send for negotiations the person who only Kuleba and his gang will approve of. So it's like basically we don't want to talk to you because we, the court, the tribunal, decided you're all war criminals. How about we talk with you? We talk with you and we talk with you. And those guys are already agents of foreign countries, let's say. Or maybe are just sympathizers of this foreign enemy of Russia. So do you think that it's any possibility for Russia to participate in the February so-called peace summit? I think not. Kuleba also said he was absolutely satisfied with the results of Zelensky's visit to US last week, and he revealed that the US government had made a special plan to get the Patriot missile battery ready to blah blah blah. You're on your last leg, Kuleba, and we all know that, and you're trying to make noise as if you're not almost dead. You are almost dead. You're almost dead in a coma and you make noise saying, no, I'm still alive, I'm still alive. No, I don't think so. Kuleba said during the interview at the foreign ministry that Ukraine will do whatever it can to win the war in 2023, adding that diplomacy always plays an important role. The problem is they want to negotiate while they fight, because they don't say, okay, you know what, we want to negotiate, but we just stop fighting. Today we stop fighting, and tomorrow we negotiate, okay? No, they don't say that. They say we negotiate maybe, but they never said a ceasefire. I didn't hear anything about any ceasefires, did you? I've never heard the Ukrainians saying, oh, ceasefire and then we negotiate. No, they always ask the Russians to do that. Like, you ceasefire, you stop fighting, we don't, and then we talk. That's idiotic. So, it says here that, and I'm quoting, every war ends in a diplomatic way, he said. Every war ends as a result of an action taken on the battlefield and at the negotiating table. Kuleba said Ukrainian government would like to have a peace summit by the end of February. The United Nations could be the best venue for holding this summit because this is not about making a favor to a certain country, he said. This is really about bringing everyone on board. United Nations is not an objective body, as you know. And why do you know that? You know, by judging certain countries who break the international law with impunity and do not follow the recommendations or the, you know, the authority of the United Nations. You can name at least two. One is in the Middle East and one is in North America. Okay. It says here that asked about whether they would invite Russia to the summit, he said that Moscow would first need to face prosecution for war crimes at an international court. They can only be invited to this step in this way, he said. And I'm quoting, they regularly, Kuleba, listen to this. Kuleba says, they regularly say that they are ready for negotiations, which is not true. And now he provides his reasoning why he thinks the Russians are not true about negotiation. Because everything they do on the battlefield proves the opposite. What? So you can't fight and negotiate in the same time? You need to stop the hostilities and then negotiate? Says what? You are not eager to do that, but you want the Russians to do it? So, what do you think about this weasel? Remember, he's the foreign minister of Ukraine. Put this way of thinking, or lack of, next to Sergei Lavrov, which is his counterpart in Russia. Or put his statements with the Indian foreign minister, Jai Shankar. This looks like a, I don't know, fifth grader, and those two sound, and they are adults. The adults I know, because nowadays you meet adults with child brains and the behavior of a child, but they are adults by body. So that's an adult. When an adult opens her or his mouth, you realize that's a child brain in there. And Kuleba has that kind of child brain, or he's a smart guy playing stupid. One of the two. Otherwise, you can't just reason like that. They don't want to negotiate because they are still fighting in the battlefield. That was his justification. I mean, you tell me if that's a logical connection between the two. If one depends on the other one. If negotiation depends necessarily on stopping the hostilities. I can tell you negotiations what definitely depend on. And people being alive. Because if someone is not alive, you can't negotiate with that someone. So that's a direct, you need that first in order to have this one. A precondition is to be alive and then show up, right? Here, stopping the shooting at one another is shouldn't be a precondition for the guys meeting somewhere. You guys met before in Turkey, remember Kuleba? Short brain. They met, didn't they? And they were fighting. It was no ceasefire. So what the fuck is this guy talking about? I tell you exactly. That is a clear example of negotiating, wanting to negotiate, but in bad faith. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.